Happy birthday, Marilyn Jayne Overman, my dear, beloved friend from so many years, so many memories, so many blessings. There's no one quite like Marilyn Jayne Overman. I met Marilyn back in the early 1970s. I met Ken first at the Munich Games, and Michael was at the Munich Games too, and we were all at Schloss Herlock. And when I came back to Seattle, I met Marilyn Jayne, and she was such a beautiful, special person. And I not only met Marilyn, I met Kathy and Doug and Tim and Dr. Beasley and Kent and the whole family. And my family lived in Tacoma and I lived in Seattle. And so they were like almost a home away from home. Betty Ann was so hospitable, such an important person in my life, because that was such an important era in all of our lives. Well, Ken and Marilyn and I started singing together, and it went right over my head that Ken and Marilyn liked each other. I can't believe it. I didn't even realize. Well, then it was up to 1974. Michael was in Germany in the military, and I met Mrs. Overman, Ken's mother, Mariana, and oh my, Mariana was quite a force to be reckoned with, because Michael sent me a shawl from Germany. It was one of those green Austrian shawls, forest green, and I wore it to one of our singing engagements. And she said, "Where did you get that beautiful shawl?" I said, "Oh, a friend of mine from Germany sent it." "A friend?" She was wanting to know. I said, "Yes, his name is Michael." "Michael?" She goes, "That's not a friend. That's your Isaac." She gave me a prophecy. So there you have it. And Marilyn and Ken and I traveled all around Seattle. We were in the right place at the right time because of God. It's all because of the Lord. And Marilyn played her violin so beautifully, and Ken wrote the most beautiful songs. I wrote songs, we sang together, I played the piano and the guitar, and we sang at some of the most fascinating places. We sang full gospel businessmen functions. I remember we sang once down near the water, near Ivers, at the Salvation Army's Greater Seattle Christmas party, and I remember us singing. We sang for weddings, and it was just wonderful. I remember Ken driving that little white car around, and we all got in, and all the instruments packed in, and we were all in school. We were all finishing our degrees. Ken was then in Tacoma, Marilyn at SPU, and I was at the UW. And Michael was at SPU then. He came back from the Army. He was at SPU. And then we all went to Christ Church. And Marilyn, the thing about Marilyn, Marilyn is incapable of saying anything negative about anyone. And that's what I loved about her the most. What a trustworthy friend. Loyal and only seeing the good, and always being willing to pray and support and be excited. We made recordings together, and then we all got married in the same year, and Jamie and Norm, 1978, we were all in each other's weddings. Betty Ann had a bridal shower for me at her home. Betty Ann had birthday lunches for me, and I want to tell you all about one. Betty Ann baked me a cake. Now this was 1977. because I remember that I was engaged to Michael. He had asked me to marry him in 7777, and we were married in 7778. So it was March of that year, 78 it was. And Betty Ann had invited like 12 people to my birthday party, and we all sat around her dining room table, and she made the fabulous Swedish coffee in her big pot. She baked me a cake that had 12 layers. Each layer was a different color and flavor. And she said, "This is the Lord Baltimore cake." I'll never forget that. And as we sat there in her living room, this was March, I looked out, and it had been raining and sunning, and here came a double rainbow for my birthday, and I was getting married, and I felt the blessing of the Lord so greatly in Betty Ann and Marilyn's, Neil's, and Marilyn's family home, which extended hospitality to hundreds of people. Yes. Well, Marilyn Jayne, when I met her, she's blonde and blue-eyed, and she loved roses, and Ken had the most beautiful roses he used to bring her. So these roses are for you, Marilyn Jayne. One for you and one for me on your birthday, and cobalt blue vase, because Ken used to bring these fabulous bouquet of roses to Marilyn from their Pikes Peak, his parents' home in Bellevue. And we just had such koinonia and fellowship, and always positive, always happy, always uplifting. And then I was at the University of Washington summer of 77, and I remember meeting a young man that he was the music director at St. Luke's, and he invited all of us to sing. And so we all went to sing. And Marilyn, I don't know if I've ever told you this, he gave you the supreme compliment, because I saw him the next day at the U. He said, "Your friend Marilyn, she is so green, she is so fresh, she is so free, she is so happy." He said, "I want to be like Marilyn." Isn't that beautiful? Green and fresh, happy because of the Lord. It's all God. It's what the Lord. Worship is the fountain of youth. I believe it. So I'm really sad I can't be with you up in Bow at your big celebration. It's just too far today. It's 3 hours north on the worst traffic Friday. So sorry. Michael even took the day off. We were planning to go, but when it came down to it, we evaluated, we couldn't do it. So Marilyn, I am inviting you to my home in July or August, with your choice of date, for a very royal tea party, and all of the Overmans, everyone is invited, everyone is welcome. And I thought perhaps it would be on your way to Annalisa's. So we will make your birthday last a little bit longer. Well, Marilyn Jayne, this is the tea table, and I want to say from the tea table, happy birthday to one of the truly most beautiful people I have ever known in all my life, Marilyn Jayne Beasley Overman. And this is the little tea set I have. And I chose this teapot for you. I thought this looks like Marilyn Jayne, doesn't it? It's so English, it's so old, it's very vintage. And this is one of my favorite cups I've chosen for you today. It's called the White Cliffs of Dover. And we share a love for Canada. We share a love for England. We share a love for tea parties. When we met each other, we had so much in common. Yes, and I remember your bedroom, Marilyn. You had a wall of collage, of cutouts of all the inspiring things, and it was so beautiful. Marilyn has exquisite taste. When I think of blue, cobalt blue, or cornflower blue, I think of Marilyn. It's the color of her eyes, and she's always favored blue. Blue is her color. And she's true blue. But she's born in July, and that's ruby. And do you know, in the jewels of the Bible, the ruby brings comfort and hope. And Marilyn is a person that has brought so much comfort to this world with her violin, with her smile, with her kindness, with her willingness, with her positiveness. Yes. And so ruby suits you. Oh my goodness, this tea is delicious. I made it brisk. It's strong British Tetley tea. And I thought, what are we going to have for a treat for Marilyn's birthday today? Well, I thought Marilyn is healthy. She's always been a health girl. We are going to have on my red and white transfer china, which is so beautiful, going to have red raspberries. Yes, God's treat, right? Like Marilyn always said, God's natural treats are like his candy for us. Yes. Marilyn, we all admire you. We all are grateful for you. We love you. We want you to succeed. My prayer for Marilyn is that God will grant you health, strength, body, mind, soul, and spirit, that as your days, so shall your strength be, and that you will be granted a long, prosperous, blessed life in the Lord and many more years to serve him. And I looked at my daily light, and for July 29th, which is, I know, your actual birthday, and I'll tell you what this is. It's all beautiful, and I will make a copy for you, but I chose one verse that I thought sums it up for you, Marilyn. It's in the evening. There is going, let's see, July, whoops, not 9th, 29th. The 29th is a really good one. And this is my daily light, I'll show you. And I'm reading from the Living Bible translation, which I really love. Okay, this is what it says. You have given me the blessings you reserve for those who reverence your name. That's Marilyn Jayne. She reverences the Lord's name. And you have all the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And your children have the blessing, and your husband, and all of your family. And then it says, in that coming day, no weapon turned against you shall succeed, and you will have justice against every courtroom lie. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. This is the blessing I have given you, says the Lord. So Marilyn Jayne, make sure every day you take time to have a spot of tea. 4 o'clock is a nice time. That's when the Queen always had it. And take time for you and enjoy this. 70 is such a good number. 7 is the perfect number of God. It's completion. 7 is perfection. May your decade of 70s be blessed beyond anything you could imagine. So I'm going to close now with a little prayer for Marilyn Jayne. Dear Lord, I thank you for my dear sister, my dear friend. I've barely scratched the surface of what she means to me, but I pray that you would grant to Marilyn Jayne the blessing of the Lord that makes rich and adds no sorrow, that she would see years of beauty, blessing, body, mind, soul, and spirit. She will have good health, good strength, and many more opportunities to play her beautiful violin for the glory of the Lord. Thank you for her, Lord. Thank you for her life. Thank you for all she has given to all of us. And we bless you, dear Marilyn Jayne, this day and always. So, from the tea table, I say, happy, happy, happy birthday, and many, many more.